Alright, so here we're going to show you how to do a, say a parallel entry on a hold clearance we'll use the VOR this time, which is a little bit harder than your direct entry, but still really not that much harder. So again, like every hold, it's going to start off with a hold clearance, and in today's case, we'll just use the same hold as we did in the last video, and it sounds like this. India Alpha Zulu is cleared direct to the YYC VOR to hold northwest bound on a 360 radial. Descend, maintain 7000, expect further clearance at 1645 Zulu. So we get that clearance, and then we go ahead and we read it back exactly like we did on the last video, and then we're going to set it up. So how are we going to set it up? Well, last time we did direct to using the GPS, so now we're going to try and do it direct to using the VOR. So I've already gone into the nearest page, I've pulled up YYC, now I can pull up the frequency 1167, and because it's a VOR, I'm going to have to tune it in. So I'll go 1167 up here. 116.7. There we go. And then we'll set it. So that's the tune part. Identify it as YYC. If we see it right here, you don't have to actually use the Morse code to figure out what it is. Now we're going to test it. So we're going to go CDI like such. Now we have nav1 and it's shown in green over there, which means the one we're using. If I hit this button right here, it centers it with a 2 indication, which is very convenient. Then we're going to go 10 degrees left, 10 degrees to the right, and we should get full scale deflection on both sides. And then we're going to flip it all the way to the 90-degree position from where we were. And then that should give us a flag flip right there. So there we go. So we've tested it. Now we just have to set it to track inbound. So I've just clicked that button, centered with a 2 indication, is going to get you the direct to when flying a VOR. So I'll just turn right to that heading right there, and then maybe a little bit past, recenter it, because as we are turning, you're going to go off that radial a little bit, and then we'll be tracking inbound very, very shortly. Center it one more time, and then we'll put the heading bug, and then there we go. Now we're tracking direct to the station. Now I could use a bearing pointer as well when I'm tracking this as well, and I might do that just for, convenience sake. Or you could just track this inbound, and using the pod method, you could just visualize where that bearing pointer is going to be, or sorry, where that setup's going to be. So we'll use we'll use not the bearing pointer on this one, just to kind of show you what it's going to look like. So our clearance was to fly on a 360 radial inbound, and now we have to figure out what our entry is going to be. So pod method, all right, we got our standard hold, so it's going to look like that, and then it's going to have a vertical line like that, and then you're going to figure out where's the tail going to be. Well, in order to figure out where the tail is going to be, once you set it up, it's going to be on the 360 radial, which is going to be right about there. But if you think of it a little bit more closely, 360 radial means the track inbound is going to be 180 because you can't fly radials inbound, so you have to flip it. And once we flip it, we realize that our inbound track would be 180 should be down here, which would put the tail on the reciprocal inside the parallel quadrant. Okay, so now that we have established that we're going to do a parallel entry, we're going to actually go ahead and brief a parallel entry. And then while I'm doing that, I'm still kind of maintaining my track, so drifting a little bit off. We'll go ahead and correct for that a little bit. So parallel is basically going to be go across the station, and as soon as you cross the station, you're going to fly outbound on that outbound track. You're actually going to track it outbound. You're not necessarily flying a heading outbound. This is the only one that's flown basically backwards. So you hit the station, and what your inbound track was, you fly that, track it outbound until you hit 1 minute. Then in our case, we're going to do a left turn, right? Because it's standard, but we're flying a standard hold backwards. So in that case, it'll be a left turn off of that track to basically an intercept heading. So I'm trying to intercept an inbound track of 180 now. But if I just turn to 180, I will just parallel the track and I'll be literally backwards in the hold. So you want to go a little bit past 180, maybe 150, 120. You can also just turn direct to the station if you know where it is, if you have a bearing pointer. If you don't have a bearing pointer, then you just turn to re-intercept that track inbound. So we'll do that, we'll track inbound, then we'll cross the station, and then because it's standard hold, we'll do right-hand turns off of that. So that's the first 3 turns briefed. Now I'm going to go do the safe part. So speed is set to 90 knots. Altitude, in our case, we never actually set it down to 7,000 like we were cleared. So I'm going to start and do that right now. So there's set the bug right down there, and then we're going to go vertical speed. I'm going to put it to about 500 feet per minute for the descent, and then I'll pull the power back a little bit, and then it'll start to descend. And then we have fuel and expect further clearance. So fuel is same deal. Check your fuel gauges and then figure out if you have enough fuel in the hold in terms of what you planned in time against your expect further clearance. Let's say we're only going to be in there for 15 minutes and I planned for 30 minutes. Good enough in terms of our hold. All right, so now that we've been kind of tracking inbound, I can now set this to what I wanted as my desired. So I'll go ahead and I'll do that right before we enter the hold here. Just like such. You want to make sure that it's set up, you know, within a minute of entering the hold, so that as soon as you get that little flag flip and whatnot, and it'll come in really, really quickly, you're ready to go turn and track outbound, and you're not just like dead reckoning all of a sudden. So I kept it so that I didn't set it up initially so that I knew how to track inbound off the VOR, but now that I am tracking inbound, I've kind of established that 047 will get me to the station. I can dead reckon to the station a little bit and then fly that until I get the flag flip. And I have my timer already set up, zeroed out, so now we just have to wait till we quite literally cross the fix. All right, so there was, you know, not a flag flip, but enough of an indication that we're in the ambiguous zone, and then there we go. So now I'm going to turn to track outbound like such, and then because we're a little bit off track, I'll re-intercept that line like that. I'm going to start my time. Turn is like left 330 because I'm trying to track and get that CDI back so that I stay on the safe side. So that's my time, turn, track. Throttle is a little bit fast because we're descending, so we'll pull the throttle back a little bit more so that it doesn't screw with my time a little bit. And then CDI is starting to come back in, so I'll bring it back to north, and it is going to be a little bit sensitive as you're close to the station. And then talk, we'll say India Alpha Zulu is entering the hold, and you definitely want to say entering the hold when you're tracking either a parallel or an offset, because it's going to take you a bit to establish yourself, and you're not flying a regular pattern until you're established. So we're just doing kind of gentle corrections. We're going to fly that out for about a minute or so. And of course, it's not going to be perfect every single time, but it'll be, you know, close enough. The big thing is you stay on the safe side, which in our case is going to be, well, they told us to hold northwest bound, so we're staying on the northwest side of the hold. So there's 1 minute, so I'm going to stop my time. Now we're going to do a left-hand turn to an inbound track of 180, but I'm going to do so via maybe a heading of 150 or so. I'm going to go past it a little bit, because if I just did 180 degrees, I would just parallel it, and that's not quite what we want. So I'll go like 150, maybe even a 45 intercept, like such. Now I'm turning left, tracking, we already talked about that. Throttle is slowing down a little bit because we leveled off at 7,000 feet, so I'm going to add a little bit of power back to cruise settings, and then throttle, that's my throttle. Talk is not required until we cross the hold again. So we're just going to turn all the way around like such until we hit the heading bug, and then hopefully that CDI will start to center itself, and then we'll go from there. Now you can time this inbound leg, but it doesn't really bring you any value at all to time the inbound, because it's kind of a non-standard way of flying a hold, so you're not really going to get that 1 minute mark at all, and it won't really give you any value in terms of wind corrections and whatnot. So we're not going to bother with the timing for this inbound, but we will time it on the outbound. On the next one, we'll just do it 1 minute. So there you go, CDI is starting to come in, so I'll start to bring it back in. Now we go past it a little bit, so I've corrected to the right just to re-intercept, and then I'm going to use slightly more gentle corrections. We are pretty close to the station, so I'm not going to be too picky about where it's going and whatnot, because I'm probably going to get a flag flip at some point. So we're inbound, we won't bother with our time. Turn is back to track that inbound. Throttle set to 90 knots. Talk is not required yet. And we'll just kind of follow that CDI in a little bit, just because it's being super finicky. Just like that. Close enough. And then any minute now we'll get some kind of flag flip. Still try and track it outbound a little bit or inbound a little bit, but I won't be too aggressive with the corrections, especially the closer I get to the station. Yeah, as you can see, it doesn't take that much, and then there's our station passage. There we go. We would stop our time. Let's say turn is going to be a right turn because it's a standard hold to an outbound heading of 360. And then throttle is set to 90 knots now. Talk is Indy Alpha Zulu is now established in the hold. And then HC will come back, be like Indy Alpha Zulu, Roger. And then from here, it's just a standard hold pattern. So now we're going on to our outbound, and then we'll do our outbound timing for 1 minute, then we'll turn inbound, and then we'll do our inbound timing, and then just keep doing that until ATC tells us to leave the hold or we declare an emergency for fuel, whichever one comes first.